Mrs. Fancy to the airport. She'd come over the week before with a plate of her hot cheese cornbread and asked me if I would drive her. She was on a fixed income, and I knew 4 days of airport parking would be a trial for her, so I'd lied and said I'd love to spend a solid hour fighting highway traffic. I owed her more than a ride to the airport, as good as she had been to me. "We can take my Honda," Mrs. Fancy had said, smiling her thanks at me with her brown eyes squirrel bright. "You're saving me the parking row. At least let me save you the gas." Since my ancient Buick got about 12 miles a gallon with the wind behind me, I was happy enough to take her in the Civic. That would have been the end of it if I hadn't helped Mrs. Fancy tote in all her luggage. The gypsy was standing near the airport's little coffee shop like she'd been waiting for me, like she'd known that I was coming. That gypsy looked at me and knew me. She saw me whole, inside and out, as if my skin was made of glass. She laid her tarot cards for me, and that reading, it was like she took my life and ran it through a Cuisinart. She told me it was Tom or me, and God help me, I believed her. As I drove home after, I was shaking so hard I liked to run off the road. I pulled onto the shoulder and sat, trying to remember how to make my lungs work right. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight the knuckles had gone bloodless. As I looked at them, a chill, small voice rose up inside of me, not shaken at all. It said, clear and cold, "What we got here is an almost anonymous car for 3 days that could be right useful." So instead of taking the Honda back to Mrs. Fancy's garage, I'd parked it on a busy street a few blocks over. The hours until Mrs. Fancy's return began ticking backwards in my head like a countdown. I was set to pick her up come Friday, so this muggy Thursday morning was my last chance. As I'd made Tom's final butter-logged breakfast, my eat-in kitchen had looked as fake as a movie set, the sunflowers nodding cheerful on the wallpaper, the mellow old linoleum gleaming under its fresh coat of mopping glow. I'd whisked about, wiping down the countertop and washing the cook pans like I was in a live cartoon hand-drawn into a sunshiny kitchen. "You trying to kill me, woman?" Tom had said when I'd set the plate in front of him. My mouth had gone slack, and he'd grinned up at me. He'd tucked into the bacon, eyes closing as he chewed. "I can feel my arteries hardening, but my tongue don't much care." I'd managed to get my lips to close before drool fell out. He'd broken the yolk with one of the biscuits and said, "You're gonna get me as fat as your damn dog." Gretel had thumped her tail on the floor in honor of the word dog, or maybe the word fat. She knew both words meant her. Gretel was mine. She was a khaki-colored mutt, mostly hound dog, but Tom always said at least one of her ancestors must have been a piece of carpet as much time as she spent sprawled out snoozing on the floor. I'd listened to the real sound of her tail on the linoleum and thought to myself, this is how to kill a man. I keep myself believing I won't, but I keep going until I'm there and already doing it. It was a trick I was playing on myself, and it worked even though I knew I was playing it. Tom left early. Before his run, he had to drop Fat Gretel off to get her shots, then go by his daddy's main store and put an antique Winchester in the safe. He practically had to drag poor Gretel. She knew a car ride alone with Tom meant the vet. 30 seconds after the front door shut, I was butt up under the kitchen sink, digging my Poppy's old .45 revolver out from the stack of rags behind my cleaning products. We had another .45 and a .38 at the house, both automatics, but they were registered. Not even Tom knew I had Poppy's. A gun this old and unused was off the books, even before I stole it out of a shoebox in my daddy's closet and carted it halfway across America.